A lot of students contact us. I'm sure they contact you doing the same, describing their fear that they have when they try to speak English, or they describe this language barrier. Um, how would you recommend removing that fear, like overcoming that?
You've got to work out what your fear is and why you have that fear, and then tackle it head on, which sounds so much easier said than done. But as someone who's learned different languages, I know it's really scary. But the more languages I've learned and the older I've got, the more I've realized that you've just got to do it. And people just don't care. So let's say, for example, one of your fears is speaking English. Why are you scared to speak English? Because you're scared to make mistakes. But why are you scared of making mistakes? Oh, because people are going to think I'm an idiot. Well, so what? Like, they're probably still going to make assumptions about you, whether you speak perfectly or not, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, they may still think you're an idiot, even if you're even if
With
your
perfect
speech is
pronunciation.
perfect. Yeah.
They'll say that idiot speaks so perfectly.
Yeah. They speak too perfect. Oh my God. So people are always gonna make assumptions. They're always going to judge you in some way. So why should you let that dictate your life and stop you from doing something? I'll tell a story because I always like telling stories on my podcast, the YouTube channel. Um, about 10 years ago, when I first moved to Spain, so I'm in Spain now, it's a bit confusing. 10 years ago, I moved to Spain and then I ended up moving back to the UK. But when I was first in Spain 10 years ago, I didn't speak that much Spanish. And it was the first time I'd ever learned a second language besides learning French in school, but that doesn't count, okay? Because that was rubbish. So I was monolingual until the age of 19, started learning Spanish and moved to Spain for a year to study. And I was in a McDonald's of all places. I like never go to McDonald's, but I was in McDonald's and I just wanted to order in Spanish. And all I asked for was a Coke and some chips. That's all I asked for. So Coca-Cola, patatas fritas, that's it. Okay. And there was a couple next to me, like a guy and a girl next to me who were laughing at me for
Hmm.
ordering in Spanish. And I didn't speak Spanish for like 2 or 3 months after that because those two really, really, really hit my confidence. I remember like I felt so hurt after that. And it wasn't until like 2 or 3 months later when a friend of mine was like, "Why don't you ever speak Spanish?" Like she was Spanish as well. She's like, "Why don't you ever speak Spanish? You never speak Spanish with us." Even in restaurants, I didn't even want to speak an order in Spanish. I was so, so, so insecure. And I told her that story. And she was like, "Emma, those people probably don't even remember laughing at you. Like they probably thought that they were laughing at you and then they moved on and then moved on with their lives, then moved on from that interaction. They probably don't even remember you. They could walk past you in the street and they probably wouldn't even recognize you and remember you ordering in McDonald's. So why are you letting them control you? Why are you letting these two absolute random losers control how you feel and stop you from speaking Spanish?" And I thought about it and I was like, she's right. She
Yeah.
really is. These people, who are they? They're literally no one. And I was in McDonald's speaking another language, and she was also telling me that there are some people in Spain who do laugh at English and do laugh at English, who do laugh at Spanish, like people speaking Spanish, because they're kind of insecure, because it's like they know that their English isn't very good, so they laugh at other people because
Mhm.
it's like what we were talking about before. Like it's easy to put someone else down than to build yourself up. Like,
Yeah.
why should I spend years practicing my English when I can just tell you your English is rubbish? so then you'll never speak it again. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
This isn't everyone. By the way, don't cancel me, Spain. I love you. Um, but a lot of people, they're quite insecure. And it's the same with English. My boyfriend speaks like near perfect English because he lives with me. He lives with an English teacher. But there are times when even he has had comments about his English where
Yeah.
someone will say something like, "Oh, why do you say this?" Or they'll laugh at him for speaking English well. Like they
Yeah.
literally take the mick out of him for speaking English well. And he's like, dude, why? Why are you so insecure? Like it's just how some people are.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to share that story because it's it's something that might happen to someone who's listening to this or watching this. I hope it doesn't, but yeah, it's you shouldn't ever let anyone else make you feel bad. So going back to the main point, find out what your fear is, find out why you have that fear, like really, really get to the root of it.
Yeah.
And if it's the fear of being judged, those people are going to judge it anyway.
Yes.
So don't let them dictate what you feel, how you feel.
Yeah.
That's the end
I
of my
think
monologue.
no, no, no. It was great. Thanks for sharing that. That was deep, and it was a great example of what the students should do to address that fear. Like you went step by step, showed them exactly how you did it. That was amazing. And I would say like it will happen to you. Like someone
Yeah.
somewhere will criticize your language, no matter what language, no matter where you are. So that's going to happen, and like how you react to it is the important part, right? Like dealing
Yeah.
dealing with that. I had that. Like you can probably imagine the stereotypes about Russians, and so my time in Russia, like I got a lot of people doing like criticizing and stuff like that. So I became really, really motivated to learn the language in order to have arguments, in
That's a good
order to
motivation.
argue with people,
Yeah.
so that when people would say those things, that I would be smart enough in the language to say something back. And, of course, they can then go to the next thing and I might not be able to, but that builds on itself and that builds on itself. So that was a big
Yeah.
motivation for me, was like not to shy away from the situations where I'm being criticized. And even now, so I live in Florida in the United States now, and there's a Russian community here, and my wife is Russian, so we go to some events with them, and so I go to this birthday party at someone's house, and this guy comes in. The only thing I say to him is hi. That's it in
In
Russian.
Russian.
In Russian, I just say hi, and he goes, "Oh, I remember you, but your Russian used to be better." So it's the first thing that he says to me, and like for all the Russian people there, it's like stupid comment, whatever, move on,
Mm.
right? But like I'm like, oh, like because I am a language learner of Russian, and I am like I feel comfortable with it, and I'm like not actively studying now, but like I feel like I can speak in pretty much any situation. So I was like, ooh, it hurt me, and
Mm.
so I'm sitting there like thinking, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? So we go into the kitchen, and then I addressed it, and I was like, do you think you said that to me because you're not speaking English yet?
Uh,
Because you live here where everyone speaks English, and
yeah.
you feel insecure about that? And
What did you
so,
say? I'm
of course,
invested
it made
now.
it weird, but it made it kind of weird in the room, right?
But he made it weird first. You were just out weirding him. You were just matching the vibe.
Yeah. So, but those it was those moments that like motivated me, and even that situation, like I hadn't actually spoken Russian to a lot of people, even though I was at these events with Russian people. I'm out of Russian mode. Like ever since the war started, I kind of checked out, and
Mm.
uh so like but I had to speak Russian to say something back to him. So it motivated me to speak.
Hmm.
I should thank him, right?
Yeah, you should, yeah. Should go back and thank him. Yeah, thank you for that comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something I keep coming back to though, is like in all the coaching and stuff that I do, it's like when you approach something from the point of view of gratitude first, your reaction ends up being better for you long term.
Hmm.
because when you react and you're like trying to fight, argue, like then it the long term, like in that situation, right? My response to him is not the most grown up thing to do. So
Mhm.
um so of course other people see that, and now that look makes me look bad. Whereas if
Mhm.
I had just said like, ah, opportunity to prove you wrong, thanks, then
Mhm.
right, then that probably would work out for me a lot better. So I'm trying to make that switch for me, but just it just happened now. I was just like, I should have thanked him for that. So
Yeah. Thank you for your rude comments.
yeah. And maybe all
Yeah.
those haters in the comments on YouTube, hey, thanks for that.
Mm. Yeah. It's
That's
it's one thing I like to reply back to people is, and how many languages do you speak? Because a lot of the time people they'll make these comments and they don't realize how they can be interpreted. I'm sure
yeah,
a lot of people like they mean no harm. They're just like, oh, your Russian was better before. And they probably don't think like, oh, he's going to interpret that as like now his Russian's rubbish.
right,
um,
right, right.
yeah. They they probably, I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a compliment. I don't know. In some weird way, in some
Yeah,
parallel universe. But yeah, I think it's always hard to say to people like try not to let these comments get to you. But I think you're right, coming at this from like a place of gratitude. Because now like I wouldn't say I'm thankful for that experience, but I feel like it's an experience that's definitely helped me. Like the situation at McDonald's, I mean, because now when I get people laughing at me, I know how to respond. I don't know if you've ever done this actually. This is something that me, my boyfriend, and a few of our friends have done together, is we spar together. So we did this thing where like um I like they were role playing as someone who was kind of mocking my Spanish and telling me to like get out the country and go back to the UK because unfortunately, you know, I get those comments. Not often, I must say. I'm painting Spain a very bad light here. Like it's not that bad. But
you're
I've
showing
had
us
like
the real Spain.
that's real Spain, yeah. When they're telling me to get out of the country and laughing at my Spanish. No, 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 no. I'm talking about in the span of 10 years. Like this
Yeah,
has
yeah.
happened like once or twice, you know. And yeah, so we were like sparring and like practicing together of what could I say if someone said like go back to your own country? Because like I don't know how to respond in Spanish. So yeah, we actually did like a practice session of what insults could I say back to people? And oh, I have this idea. How do I say this in Spanish? So yeah, we did that. And thankfully, actually, touch wood, since we did the sparring session, I've not had to do it. I've not had to use anything, but yeah,
That's awesome.
it's there. It's in my repertoire if I ever do need it. I
Yeah.
don't think I will, but it was fun. It was a fun exercise anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people who make those comments, they just don't know any better. Like they're just not
Yeah,
aware
yeah.
of what that implies. And then from our side, from the receiving end, we have added a lot of meaning to this thing. Like it's important to us to be seen as being able to communicate in this language. And that's this big meaning that we added to it that they don't see. And they're
Hmm.
just like, oh, look, that person. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's such a big meaning. And now you internalize the big meaning, not the actual, just the action for itself, but all the meaning that you added onto it, right? And
Yeah.
uh that happens to me. And then I try to take a step back and be like, does that really mean that?
That's something like that we did in the sparring session is how do I ask someone in Spanish, what do you mean by that? Or what are you trying to say with that? Or my favorite is what's your intention behind saying that? Because
Mhm.
it makes people reflect a little bit. Like if I say to you right now, like, God, your Russian's terrible. And then you respond with, what do you mean by that? I mean, I can go in one of two ways. I can be like, oh no, sorry, I just meant it as a joke. Like, you know, it used to be better, blah, blah. Or I could go like the aggressive approach almost, like, oh well, no, you used to be better. Did your Russian, and you can just keep going. Yeah, but why do you need to say that? You know, why do you need to
Yeah,
bring that up? Why do you need to mention that? And how's your English doing? How are your English lessons going? That really helps. That's a nice little trick people can use to deflect if they ever feel like someone's kind of coming after them. Yeah. So like, what's
definitely.
your intention behind that? Or why are you laughing? Why do you find it funny? That's my favorite. Like when I speak Spanish.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, sometimes I'll make a silly mistake and I'll be like, why are you laughing? Like I'll say it like really seriously as well. just to make the situation a bit more awkward. But yeah, just get people thinking because sometimes they don't realize